This is the Sport Fishing Championship.
What a fishery we have in front of us here for the Texas International Fishing Tournament. South Padre Island plays host to stop number 9 of 10 of the Sport Fishing Championship. Beautiful blue waters along the Texas Gulf Coast right before they hit Mexico. But we are talking about the Gulf of Mexico and a few Texas teams on top. Sigsbee Deep, Quantified, and Rebecca, 1, 2, and 3. But Vamonos, Instigator, and Bam Bam, who caught unofficially the first blue marlin of the tournament, back in 6th place. But one thing for certain, Peter Miller, this place has a bunch of billfish in it. Welcome, everybody, to the Sport Fishing Championship. Texas plays host to the final stop of the Gulf Division, Peter, and we're down there all the way at the bottom just before we get to Brownsville, and a variety of species we're looking for. There's 5 different billfish. We've already seen 3 caught this week. I don't know if we'll see number 4 or 5, but the numbers have been incredible.
That's right, and this tournament's been around for 82 years, so there's a ton of history here, and the bite is on. You know, they're into the 50s, 60s in the billfish category, and that is a lot of fish, and it's relatively close to shore compared to what we've seen in the past, Robbie.
You see on that graphic view just the canyons, the drop-offs. They don't have very far to go. Welcome inside our studio here in the Sport Fishing Championship. Peter Miller, he's the champ. I'm Robbie Floyd. And the variety of fish that we're seeing, but also they don't have to run very far to get to them, do it? I mean, 40 miles offshore, you're at that drop-off, you can get your business done.
Yeah, that's a spot, you know, it's a lot closer than what we've seen in the past, and to be able to run to an area that's only 100, 125 miles, that's a big difference. Some of the tournaments, the guys are running 200, 300, 400 miles to get there with fuel bladders and all these different things that they needed to sustain them while they were offshore. But these guys are catching fish close to shore, and there's a ton of fish caught. They've only been fishing for a day and a few hours, and there's already about 60 billfish caught that we know thus far. There could be many more because we're only getting reports from about a third of the fleet. So stay tuned. This is going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, everything we say is officially unofficial. The Sport Fishing Championship. Officially, we have one man on site with Site 1, and that's Ronnie Moore. Ronnie, looks like a little bit of a breeze, but I see sunny skies. They were catching them yesterday, and I'm already seeing reports of them catching them today.
Yeah, guys, the wind direction this week was really kind of the killer. Some of these teams that had the plans of leaving out 7 p.m. the day before lines in to get out to their spots, they decided to wait and push it till the morning time because of the direction of the winds. It's been pretty sustained at 20, 30 miles an hour, a little lesser on tournament days, which is great, but they will have to eat the teeth of that wind on the way back in. But like you guys were saying, where these teams are having to head today and this week out of Port Isabel, out of South Padre Island, you know, they can go all the way to those oil rigs, 100, 120, 130 miles, like we've seen some teams like Rising Suns and some of those people are going out there first. They'll work their way back in and maybe stop at the natural reefs that are much closer to shore on their way back in. So we should see some movement today, not only in the leaderboard, but in location for some of our teams as they make their way back.
Yeah, it's been incredible, the numbers that we've been seeing, and what's different about this tournament. We've talked about barriers. They couldn't go past 130 miles here. They can run as far as they want. But some of these teams actually came in yesterday because they caught good fish for the local side of things. They had some bring-in fish. Quantified one of those. They're in for the championship for the Gulf Division, trying to win that $100,000, but they're also in for the local tournament, trying to win some coin as well.
And that's the one deal when you try to differentiate the SFC points race and obviously the Tift points race, different values on our fish. So blue marlin, they're obviously the heaviest weighted fish in our categories, but they're tremendously heavy weighted for the Tift tournament. So the fact that Quantified has put multiple blue marlin on their tally this week, and reports are they've been hooking up with multiple. Hopefully they can get them in. I think Rising Suns is possibly fighting some fish as well. We should see some blue marlin come in that'll affect this leaderboard big time. But like you said, we saw a lot of sailfish, but a lot of whites as well. I know Sigsbee Deep dominated the white marlin category, had over half of them that were caught yesterday was from the leading boat. But those blue marlins will be a game changer today. And obviously the sales are the easy money, 30, 40, 50-pound sales. A lot of those are common. We saw a couple 60s come in yesterday, though.
Thanks a lot, Ronnie. On site with Site 1. A lot of different varieties of fish here as well on the local side of things. I mean, I'm looking at, there's 10 or 15 other species of fish that we don't count in the Sport Fishing Championship, but looking at the Gulf Division points, Quantified doing very well here. We expected that, didn't we, Peter? They're from South Padre Island. They're supposed to do well, but they're not disappointing.
That's right. They're always on top of the fish with 12,850 points, with a couple of first-place finishes and a 7th place. You know, if they take this one to the hole, they could have 3 first-place finishes. And if you don't deserve a win off that, I don't know who does. But that is impressive work by Quantified, as always.
That would be incredible. 6B Deep is going to have something to say about that as well. Rebecca, another team up near the top. But let's take a look with our Garmin Team Spotter, just generally where these teams are located. I said that shelf, that drop-off, not very far offshore. It looks like maybe a little further south is Quantified. But again, right there at that initial drop-off, Peter. Let's take a look back at some of the catches they had yesterday. We don't have a cameraman actually on board. This is their crew. Thank you very much for giving these shots, and it shows just how they were catching them yesterday.
That's right. We appreciate that footage getting to us, and they've got a nice sailfish on right there at the boat. Water looks calm, nice and peaceful. As always, smooth and stealthy as they leader their sailfish.
And we talk about how we have boats running out. You know, not all the time do these boats, they stay out. They don't always come back. Quantified came in and gave us this footage yesterday, but sails were very prevalent. We've seen that. I think up till now, we've got over 30 sailfish as of now, but they add up to points. The sailfish are worth 75 points. They're looking for blues. They're worth 350. But if I'm around a bunch of sails, I mean, those points add up.
It's kind of like walking through your yard. When you see sticks and leaves, you pick up a stick, you pick up a leaf, and by the end of it, you catch your blue marlin at the end as you throw everything in the garbage can and you're all set and you're ready to go. Odd analogy, but I happened to mow my lawn like crazy yesterday, so it's really fresh to me.
I saw you with your ego and your electric
God, I was
lithium.
getting after it. But anyway, these sailfish are they're precious because they are 75 points, and when you catch them one after another, like Ronnie said, they are money makers. You know, they will take you to the top. They will put you above the leader that's there with one blue if you catch all those sails on top of that.
Yeah, and speaking of blue, here is their blue marlin catch. This is a 350-point fish. Now, the very first blue marlin of the tournament is worth 450. They get an extra 100 bonus points. We don't know officially who that is. We think it's Bam Bam, but again, we're only getting about a third of the field reporting back to us. They're not obligated to return back. We need to work on that. We need all the information we can get, Peter.
Ronnie, I'm going down memory lane here. That size blue marlin was one of the first ones I caught on my own, on my boat, by myself, on a live mahi that I bridled. And the line went through the mouth, around the dorsal fin, and then connected by hook to line and basically lassoed the fish. If that's not a Texas moment, lassoing a marlin, I don't know what is, but it looks like this fish may be lassoed or hooked in the shoulders, which could make it feel like a much bigger fish, but they get the release on a nice size blue.
Now, certain rules not necessarily have to be. You could be fouled hooked or tail wrapped, or that doesn't affect the points, as long as they make contact with that leader, generally in fishing terms.
Right, exactly. It has nothing to do with that California rule where the lure and the hooks have to be inside the mouth,
right,
as opposed to the exterior of the mouth. When it comes to marlin fishing, anything goes. You get that fish to the boat, it's a good deal, and you're going to release it.
And again, they're going to release this fish, and they've got it up to the boat. They're going to take that hook out if they can. If not, it's just a simple cutoff, but again, it's to be caught another day. Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation, one of our representatives, just try and keep that fish as healthy as possible, get it back out there, and maybe I can catch it. And my lack of fishing self, you know, I'm a great, you know, I catch the bait fish, but I'm not good on the bill fish. Rebecca, another one of our top teams. Marcos Mazzola is our cameraman on board that vessel. Captain Clinton Clark, a 63-foot F&S based out of Port Aransas. I think they won one of the Triple Crown events last year. I think the Texas Billfish Classic, possible winners on that. And again, we're seeing Texas teams on top. Maybe not as many as the Florida, Mississippi teams making their way down like we've seen before.
Yeah, they, you know, I think they're looking for sails right now. Looks like they're pretty calm, dropping back. There's no panic. You'll see that feeling on the boat when you know it's not a blue marlin, people aren't tripping out. You know they're dropping on a sail or a white. Everything's calm, everything's cool. He's got him on. Looks like he's taking drag. Time to get tight on him and start closing that gap. Robbie, you got to get back to that fish. Back it up.
At this point, he's making up the ground. You see him back in the boat up, pushing that water towards the back. What would be a general gear ratio for these reels? I mean, you would want fairly low because they're heavy fish.
Well, for sailfish and white marlin, you're going to want, 6.2 to 1. That's going to be the ratio typically. When you're on a big blue, you're going to be doing 3 or 4 to 1, and then you can put it in low gear where you go 1 to 1 on the giants. And when you have the giant tunas on, you're going to go 1 to 1. Until they settle, and then you can pop it back into the next gear.
Yeah, the sailfish were 75 points. All right, I'm looking for a new hoodie. I need that Rebecca hoodie with a Texas flag. You know I'm from Texas, right?
Yeah, you told me a couple times.
And a great release there by the crew, and you can either pop it off, that hook will dissolve the line, everything will go away, or you'll see them actually cut the line there once they make contact with that leader. That would be a qualified catch. A legal catch is different. That's what's based in the state of Texas or in these waters, but a qualified catch, that's for our tournament.
That's right. And basically, IGFA rules, they state you just want to get that leader into the tip, and some of the tournaments say you have to touch the leader. You can't just tip the leader. There's a few different, everybody has a different set of rules, but we have a standard set of rules, which these guys are all following. And thank God.
We partner with the best tournaments around the country. I want to give kudos to all of the tournament events that we've been up to at this point. All 8 of them been great. And we stick with their tournament rules in a big picture, but we have our own, and it's been a great partnership for the inaugural season of the Sport Fishing Championship.
Yeah, it allows everybody to get a piece of the action, whether you're a seasoned veteran, whether you're a family member, whether you're a young kid. You get a little bit of give on this where you can pass the rod one time on these marlin. And that's very helpful at a lot of times. If you're on the left side of the boat and fish bites on the right, and you're the angler and the mate runs it over to you, that's fine. And it allows everybody to get a piece of the action. At this point, you want to have your trim tabs in the up position as you're going backwards.
Some people are saying what are trim tabs that are watching the show for the first time?
That levels the boat out. It's metal plates on the back on hydraulic arms, and when you're running, it'll stabilize your boat. When the boat leans to the left, leans to the right, you can stabilize the boat with the trim tabs. But once you back up, you want to have them flattened out and up tucked in under the boat. That way you don't rip them off like we did one time. Shh, don't tell anybody.
I will say a word. You also notice the video action right in front of us there. We've got our cameraman on the Rebecca. Again, I'd mentioned how Marcos was on board, but they're having to keep constant contact, video contact with that fish at all times to make it a qualified catch. That was good. Another check of the box for sailfish. We're going to go on board Team Double E next, the Sport Fishing Championship from South Padre Island.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
Remember, everything begins in the morning. Every story told is a fisherman's tale. We build watches tough enough to be a part of that tale. The perfect balance of beauty and brawn. We are Seaholm. Watches that last a lifetime. Seaholm Automatic, the official timepiece of the Sport Fishing Championship. See it, live it, love it. The largest in-water boat show in the world, the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show. More than 3 million square feet, fishing boats to super yachts, engines, accessories, learning experiences, and culinary delights. Save the dates, October 26th through 30th. Details at flibs.com.
It all comes back to the water. This binding agent. This fluid history of connection. Past, present, and future, all tied together through this never-ending, unwavering force. We belong to a community of seekers, anglers, and everyone in between. For us, it's more than fishing, much more. It's who we are, who we were, and who we aspire to be. We are Smith.
SFC coverage of the Texas International Fishing Tournament is sponsored by Seaholm Watches, by Smith Optics, and by Fish Razor.
Welcome back to the Lone Star State for the Texas International Fishing Tournament. They've been doing this for a long, long time. The 82nd edition of the Tift event. We've got, different acronyms, Peter Miller, that we talk. This is Tift. We got the ECBC. I mean, we
got ACDC. We got them all.
And look at the points as it stands right now. Am I seeing that correctly? Did Quantify jump up into the lead? Sigsby Deep had been leading this thing from the get-go. Rebecca still back in third, but Quantified looks like they may have taken the lead unofficially. Again, everything we say is officially unofficial because these are the teams that we're getting reports back from. There are many, many teams out there on the water that we have no communication with. So
I'm getting really used to seeing Quantified at the top of the leaderboard. Sometimes I don't even need to look at the tournament. I'm like, what is that? They're always at the top. They're sitting there on top all the time.
Rebecca's a team we've been checking out on the Sport Fishing Championship. Let's go on board with them on yesterday. Again, we're getting some of the footage. We have certain boats out there on the water with cameramen. Other boats are actually giving us their cell phone or tablet usage, and we like to thank them for doing just that. But there's that camera that I was talking about that has to stay in constant contact. I know people say, oh, what makes you think that, well, I caught this, trust me. No, there's why I don't trust you. I have to have that video evidence.
That's right. That's really important, and they have to keep it continuous, like you said, the whole way. So he's got the double line there, the Bimini twist, which is a 4 to 5 foot spotted line, double line down to that wind-on leader. So they got the release there, as you can see, but he had to let it go. They want to get a nice jump out of it at the boat, just for fun, make sure they got a great picture of it. It's calm out there, so they're obviously going to get the image of the fish, and it'll identify whether it's a blue sail or a white, but you always want a nice close shot. So they let go, they gingerly fingertip this fish. When it comes to a blue marlin, you don't want to let go. Once you take wraps on that fish, you want to try to get them to the boat, because if they get mad, they dive in and they're going away, and it might be another hour, another 2 hours.
Just hearing that zip through the reel, Captain Clinton Clark putting them on the fish. They're in that offshore division, part of the Sport Fishing Championship team. John Ramming, Clinton Clark, Jonathan Zaludek, and Reed Jones, the official anglers on board that vessel. The 63 F&S.
That's a beautiful boat. All these boats have gotten so big, Robbie. All these sport fish boats, these custom boats, running at high speeds to get to the fishing grounds with all the amenities that you could ask for. It's like living in a palatial estate.
We talked to Charles Sheldon yesterday. We had an interview with him with Matt Klosterman, and I think he won in a 30-something foot boat. Here's a 60-something. We've seen
a 28. It was a 28.
Was it a 28? I remember it was small, but I was like, yeah, 20-something. We've seen 92-foot Vikings with high cotton earlier in the year.
But that story gets even more interesting because it was a 28-foot boat with an 85-year-old angler with a 600-plus pound marlin.
These guys seem pretty chill. They're quiet, they're organized, just kind of going, along. This is business as usual for the Rebecca.
Retain the leader, retain the lure, get the video, try to get the hook out if you need it. If not, you're going to cut them free, maybe revive the fish for a minute before you swim them off. But there's a lot of hands going down there, and the video.
Well, the other thing is, too, they do have the inter-ear communication. You see them with the headsets, and it's not like a push-to-talk deal. When they say something, they hear something. So that can kind of take some of the flurry, you know, kind of the excitement out of it. But they're excited they got points right here.
Yeah, they're definitely going to revive that fish a little bit. You can always tell when the fish is a little browned out like that. They need a little spiritual revival.
Good job.
Yeah, you get the fish breathing nice and easy, and everything gets back to normal, and then they'll give it a nice push away when they're ready, when they feel the fish is ready. Big white marlin there.
And there goes the swim away.
And that's what you want to see. You never want to see a white belly. You don't want to see them swimming away upside down. You just want to see them swimming away perfectly like they did, and that's the key.
And typically we'll see the cutoffs, and a great job pass on the back by
Robbie.
What?
I know that guy. That's one of the best fishermen in the world right there.
Who?
His name's John Dudas. That angler right there that just released that fish, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, you've been mistaken a time or two. I don't want to call you out. Garmin Team
man.
Funner moves over to
You
Double
look
D.
familiar.
I had to hit you there. Kevin Scott, Colby Scott, Rob House, Kyle Beach. They're throwing out the dredge. This is what teases the fish up, right? I'm no expert, but I know my dredges when I see them.
This is a homemade. This is rigged, everyone. Those are swimming mullets. Somebody did a lot of work in preparation for this tournament.
And it is about the preparation. Again, these guys just don't go show up, head out there in the middle of the ocean, and guess what they're doing? This is a plan. This is a methodical system.
I'm Ryan Carlson. We're on the Double E. We got the spread out. We're trolling. And see what happens.
In Team Double E. Jesse Males, our cameraman, on board. Seen solid results out of Captain Kevin Scott for the past decade around these Texas waters. A finger in the line there. Why would you do that? I've been told in fishing times not to do that. Why is he doing it?
Well, when you're fishing for white marlin, they're super sneaky. And when you get a bite from a white, you want to be there before it happens. You know, you have this line going through the rigger clip, and you got to way up there. And if you have your finger on it, you can feel that slight bit of pressure before it snaps out of the rigger, and then you're ready to drop back, and then you have a better shot at getting the white marlin.
They're doing it right there too, as well, with out of the gunnels and holding it up. That's going to give it a little flex. You're wanting that fish to take the bait and then run.
Exactly, with no pressure.
Already got one on. Straight down, a little bit forward. Walk on that fish. Move up. Right there, it's on your left.
Now it's nervous time. I mean, it's straight. You saw him holding that line straight down, but you see the fish over there to the side. That means there's got to be some drop in that line somewhere. That fish was moving.
That's right. They're quick, man. 60, 70 miles an hour, 70 on sails. And the blues and the whites, about 60-something.
Trying to get that dredge out of the way.
Grab it, grab it, grab it. Oh, there we go.
And maybe that's what the deal was. He was holding that rod tip down to keep it below that dredge, because that could be a catch you don't want.
That's right. And they already had the release there, and a lot of times those fish will go wild next to the boat, and they'll get up in the teasers and get up in the dredges. And a lot of times it's a quick tip whip of your rod, and you can get it right out of there. Other times it gets it ensnared in there. It's a little bit of a pain.
Tangle. Nothing we can't work with though.
It worked out for him. That's exactly what he said. A little bit of a tangle there. No problem. No worries. We got this. Again, that was 11:30 yesterday. It's a two-day tournament. You need to not only catch them on day one, you need to catch them on day two as well. Again, Team Double E. Unofficially, no catches today so far. You see, having to work with what you got there sometimes. And if that were a blue marlin, they'd have pulled everything out of the way, clear the deck. We can't have this happen. But a lightweight fish, you can do that.
Yeah, usually on a sailfish, he's going to be running around the boat. You're going to do some quick spins. You get him on the leader. And once you have him on the leader, you're good to go. But every now and then, the boat dips, the outrigger dips, and that dredge will hit the water, and there's a chance.
Let's take a look ahead with Smith Optics. Where are we heading? We know where we've been, Peter. I mean, this is stop number 9 of 10, but 10, that's where we pay the big money. $1 million is on the line. Quantify is in the lead for that. We go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we are crowning our first SFC champion.
And I'm excited about that trip. I've been there many, many times before. You see this dredge working there. You got the blue marlin, and this is sometimes only a mile, 2 miles off the beach. And the bite there is phenomenal. It's very similar to the DR because it's on that same pass, and they have a marlin alley there, if you will, and they catch a lot of fish there, and it's close to shore.
And not just white marlin, but blue marlin. They're very prevalent in that area, and those fads, the fish aggregating devices, I call them fish attracting devices, because they're meant to bring in those bait fish. You bring in the bait fish, you'll bring in the big fish, and a new one was just put out this year. I mean, they're doing it, for the country and the conservation and everything, and it's an awesome job. It's only like a mile out, so we should be getting some great footage that day on the water for the International Billfish Tournament. Our final stop as we look ahead with Smith Optics. I'm going to have my polarized on, and you and I are going to be there.
We're going to be there. That's what I'm talking about. We're going to be there for like 4 or 5 days, and we're going to be witnessing all of this and getting a chance to rub shoulders and talk to the guys and figure out what they're doing and have a great time over in Puerto Rico.
Who Dat in the lead? No, it's quantified, but we're going to catch up with Who Dat as well as Team Pura Vida. We're living that good life here on the Sport Fishing Championship.
The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation is honored to be the official charity of the Sports Fishing Championship. Through this partnership and the support of donors like you, future generations will enjoy and benefit from a naturally balanced ocean ecosystem. Our education programs, both in the classroom and online, bring to life the work needed to make sure we have clean oceans for decades to come. Join us today at www.ghof.org.
Sometimes saying no can be really difficult. It's hard to set boundaries, to give yourself space and time. Hop water means never having to choose between having fun or missing out. A sparkling hop water full of flavor and packed with mood-boosting benefits that's non-alcoholic with no calories, no carbs, and no sugar. So go out there and get up to no good.
Serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
It's the simple things, like spending a day at the beach, splashing in the water, playing in the sand, and creating sandcastle masterpieces. Rediscover fun and family on the beautiful white sand beaches of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
SFC coverage of the Texas International Fishing Tournament is sponsored by Sword Fishing Products, by Vineyard Wind, and by Yugo.
Welcome back to the Sport Fishing Championship, where you go, we go, and we go to the Texas International Fishing Tournament, the Tift event, the 82nd annual down in South Padre Island, Texas. I'm Robbie Floyd with Peter Miller, multi-time world champion. I don't know if that's Ronnie Moore on site with Site 1 with that parasail. We saw him do it at Sandestin. Maybe he's doing it at South Padre Island. The winds are nice. The weather looks to be good. It's a great day for not only fishing but catching. I'm seeing almost double digits already this morning. They started at 6:30 this morning with the lines in the water, and they will have to come back in later on this afternoon. Someone will be bringing fish, as our Garmin team spotter shows you our boats that we have cameramen out on right now. We had 6 yesterday. We've got 7 today. Welcome inside the studios. Peter, we're seeing high numbers of catches. We're seeing a lot of sailfish being caught. But the thing is, when we came to Texas, we knew we would see a variety of fish, and we're seeing just that. And we're not even talking about the flounder, the redfish, and everything for the local side. But billfish-wise, it has been exceptional.
That's right, and that's exactly what we expected, Robbie. We had heard that the guys were pre-fishing, especially the Texas guys like Quantified. They were pre-fishing every week to locate the fish on these canyons, and they were catching the heck out of them, and they continuing to do so. They're not running far from shore. They've located the fish about 100, 125 miles offshore by the canyons, and they're catching them. There's about 60, 70 fish caught already, and we're only a day and a few hours into the tournament. So this is a great catch and release program we have going. And, you know, this is officially unofficial, I should say, because we don't even have all the catch reports because some of the boats have stayed out and we haven't been in contact with them. So if you guys stay tuned and you look at the later show this evening and tomorrow then on CBS, you're going to see all the fish that were caught. Yeah. That's going to be really exciting. Big, big numbers. Yeah,
we'll remind you tomorrow morning at 10 Eastern. We will be on CBS Sports Network with the lowdown. Let's go on site with Site 1. Ronnie, you're a numbers guy. There's no question about that. Even though you wouldn't put any money down when we were at the casinos in Biloxi, numbers-wise, it's hard keeping up with this tournament just because of the actual numbers are being caught. The amount of boats that are out there, this is not easy by any means, is it?
Hypothetically, Robbie, I would put down a good bet that the Tift tournament was going to produce quite a few big catches, numbers of catches as well. Our guy Matt Klosterman, who's been with us all season long in the SFC, he's from this territory. He expected fireworks, and we've seen that so many billfish catches. He said last night, mumblings of, hey, this could be on pace to break the Tift records for all the catch records, and so very excited about that. And speaking of that, we have so many catch reports coming in that our leaderboard is switching every few minutes, and now Sigsbee Deep back on top, 1375 for that team. 25 points behind is Quantified, and Rebecca, they're about 575 points behind, and that seems like a lot to the viewers at home, but they're the one team in our top 3 without a blue marlin. They catch a 350 pointer, and they're right there within one fish or so of being able to take the lead in the 82nd Tift tournament.
All right, Ronnie, you're on site with Site 1, so you can actually get the scoop. We have to call people, talk to people. There were some teams that came in yesterday. Were you able to talk to any of those captains, any of those mates, any of those anglers, and find out how far they were running in general, and or were they catching them more out and then, or were they catching more as they came back in? What was the word on the street?
Well, you're seeing some of these teams that are adjusting. The ones that are catching the whites and the sails are most likely staying a lot shallower. Those natural areas, like I was talking about, Rising Sun's game plan for the week was to go out to those rigs 150, miles or so away, right where the downwelling kind of turns and meets the upwelling and produces that. They're right on the edge of that at all those rigs. Coming back in, though, that's blue marlin territory. Coming back in, though, they'll probably catch a lot more of a mixed bag when it comes to sails, whites, and possibly blues on those more natural reefs and drops and edges. And I think some of those teams that are catching the quantity, especially multiple species, they're not going nearly as far, and they're kind of living in those areas, which explains why 3 Texas teams are at the top. You mentioned it, multiple weeks of practice, following the trend, seeing all of the Hilton's real-time navigator reports daily as they change, and obviously seeing tournaments coming out of these areas and the results that come from them. They know this is the region we need to be in maybe day 1 when there's heavy pressured and the catches are at a high rate, but when it starts to die off, we can sneak over to our areas we've been saving. Some of those teams are definitely using that strategy today.
Hey, Ronnie, that's great reporting from you. We really appreciate everything you're compiling and getting to us. Like Robbie said, we're not getting all the information directly like you are. You're right on site with Site 1, as we know. And when you say quantity, all I can think about is quantified. Those two Qs, and they're catching the heck out of them. But Sigsbee, like you said, did they just jump ahead, you said, by about 25 points? I mean, that's a big surprise. Things are really happening. It looks to me like they've got 8, 9 fish already, 6, 7, 8, 9 fish by Sigsbee. Is that right?
And that's yes, Peter. And that's what's interesting is they have a Grand Slam. They have one of each of those 3 species we've mentioned, the sailfish, the blues, and the whites. But they're heavy on the white marlin, which are 75 or 125 points. But then when you have the 75 points for the sailfish, that's what Quantified has been heavy on all season. They've really dominated the sailfish aspect. Sailfish were in high quantity yesterday. We saw over 20 sailfish get caught, tagged, and released. Some of them obviously brought in here if they're over the legal limit. But Quantified's been on that sailfish game, and they're the only team that doesn't have a white out of the top 3. We mentioned Rebecca looking to get a blue marlin and join the other 2 teams with blue marlins on their registry, but Quantified's the only team out of the top 3 without a white marlin. And kind of when you get around that 75, the 125, and the 350, it ends up making a non-even number, and it ends up giving Sigsbee Deep that 25-point lead. But that's not even one fish. That's a quarter of a fish. That's a third of a fish.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie. On site with Site 1. A couple of things he mentioned there as we look out on our Garmin team spotter, our next team, Pura Vida. And Quantified had been known for catching those white marlins. We saw them at Sandestin with 7 whites. To not have any here, but looking at their numbers, 4 sails, 3 blue marlin, but Sigsbee Deep looks to be on top. Pura Vida, they're trying to close in. Where are they sitting now unofficially? Can't find them on our board, but they're one of our teams that are out there with our cameramen on board. Justin Hodge, Captain Marco Castellanos is trying to put them on those fish, and we're seeing that bait being rigged up. They see something. They're trying to catch something.
Patiently waiting. They'll come in a minute.
I mentioned Captain Marco. You also have Christy on board. You have the Christy and Marco Adventures. I saw them on Facebook and kind of follow along at what they've been doing. They've been doing this and as a pair for quite a while. One thing we haven't talked about also, Peter, is we have our 5 billfish categories. We also have 3 championship fish categories as well.
That's right. The championship category is a big deal. You know, these fun fish or meat fish, what you call them, which is the mahi-mahi, you have the wahoo, and then you have the yellowfin tuna presented by Invincible Boats, and they're big fish, and they're going to be tough to beat. You know, the wahoo's coming in at about 102, the yellowfin tuna's coming in at 206, and the mahi is standing at 40 pounds right now. But I've heard there's some murmurs of a bigger mahi in this particular tournament that may be laying on ice in the Yeti cooler, kind of chilling on its way into the dock for later on today.
And they won't have to come in till tonight for their weigh-in. I think it is 7 o'clock when they have to be weighed in there. So we saw that one miss. Now it looks like we got a strike and a hookup, and they're trying to clear the lines there. Execution. That is always a key word in any fishing tournament period. There, they just didn't execute for whatever reason. Fish didn't fully take it. You know, I mean, you've seen it many times.
Robbie, it almost looked like the line parted, that like they had a bad spot on the line because she was tight, she was fighting the fish, and it almost looked like the line broke or something bad happened. You know, maybe the fish, roughed up the leader and the fish came off that way. But it was one of 2 things. But it looks to me like they executed, but they just had a little bit of a mishap.
Yeah, you saw that instant release, and that could be, I mean, it shouldn't come down to knots. But you're right, it could be a chafe leader, and that's why they do have those leaders, to be more abrasion resistant. Again, cranking it in, Pura Vida, that should be Christy. Trying to dial in, what does she have on the other end of that line?
Dolphin.
Oh, there's one of our championship fish. Christy Delgado with a good one.
See, exactly what I said. I said they're going to put them right in the Yeti. They're going to put them in a little chill down with some ice, throw some salt water, make it a slush, bring the temperature down 7 degrees. That's a little tip for anybody that wants to keep their fish colder and the meat a little better.
And if that isn't our largest championship fish, if it doesn't top the 40-pound mark from Angelo De Paloa from Orange Beach, that will be delicious later. And Christy Delgado, Mark Hagen-Miller, Marco Castellanos on board that boat. There are championship divisions, and of course we have the yellowfin tuna championship fish by Invincible Boats. That was that beast, that 200-plus pounder. Drew Phillips caught that one back at Biloxi, but we saw a change in the wahoo at our last stop, 103-pounder. This is a beast. Didn't you say that was the biggest wahoo you've seen?
That's the biggest wahoo I've seen for sure, but there's been a lot bigger. But for me personally, fishing my entire life, I've never caught one that big, and that is an impressive fish, and we got to see it hanging on the scales while we were up at Martha's Vineyard, Cape Cod.
That weighs as much as Ronnie Moore. And then we have Team MG, Angelo De Paloa. There's the one I think can be taken here. 40 pounds. There are bigger fish than that around these Texas waters. I think that's the one guy that has to be going, oh, Lord, please, 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 I want to win this $50,000.
Yeah, that's amazing. It just depends on kind of like a largemouth bass. You see that big belly, and that could determine if it's going to be an extra pound or two to take it to the hole.
Yellowfin tuna, championship fish by Invincible Boats. This is a monster. Over 200 pounds for this yellowfin tuna.
That's right. That's on his second win with Drew Phillips, and that was the biggest tuna that team has ever caught, and they've been fishing their entire lives. That is a beautiful yellowfin, and you can tell by those sickle fins that that fish was caught in the Gulf of Mexico.
Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, where they caught that one. And even if it's not caught here, though, Peter, if they catch one bigger in Puerto Rico, that takes home the $50,000. So even if you make it past this round, all of those guys that enter, and they may be one-time entrants, they could still win $50,000, and we need to point that out. Who dat? Who dat out there in the Gulf of Mexico, Peter?
Let's see, they're right off the edge there. They're staying in nice and tight.
Captain Steve Strohmeyer, I think he's a local charter guy around these neck of the woods, so he should be used to fishing these waters. We've got Humberto De La Torre, our cameraman, on board. All right, so it's got to be to an advantage. If I'm a charter guy, if I fish these waters week in, week out, that has to be an advantage on my side.
That's right. You're going to know. You're going to have all the intel. You're going to be on the phone with every captain out there. You're going to be checking out the flags at the docks to see who's caught what. And right now they're bringing in, looks like maybe a small wahoo. Okay, well.
Further away.
It's in the boat.
It's kind of a celebration down here, really. You know, the fishing's part of it, but Tift it's kind of a big deal down here. We're going out there and fishing like we always do. We don't. I mean, I'm not running the boat, so you know, half the time I'm not even real sure where we're at. But you know, my job's in the cockpit to make sure everything's running right and do what needs to be done down there. I leave all the decisions up to the boss and the captain, but we usually end up finding something. Pretty much in charge of all the tackle, you know, making sure everything's rigged right and ready to go. And you know, when I'm down in the cockpit fishing, you know, we kind of go jungle rules. Whoever gets the rod first that's who's on it. So it kind of varies, you know. Sometimes I'll be on the rod because that's where it really comes down to whether the fish is going to get in the boat. What happens when it gets up close, and that's where you know, a lot of the heartbreak happens. And sooner or later, you're gonna get that look. You're gonna see that fish, and that's when it's really cool. You know, when you see that fish come up, chasing a lure, and getting hooked up, dancing out of the water. It's really something. To do this and have a chance at winning a big tournament like this with your friends is really cool. You know, we have a lot of fun out there.
Dude, I've seen some power fishing, but I've never seen power fishing quite like that. Were they trolling at 10, 15 miles an hour catching fish?
I was waiting for a blue marlin to come up to eat their fish that they were reeling in. They were skipping across the surface going 10 miles an hour.
They were flying. I'm dying. Steve Strohmeyer put them on them. There were some mahi caught there. We're going to go on the water with Team Rebecca when we return to South Padre Island.
A day out on the water could go great. Or it could have a few minor setbacks. Things could get rough. Or you could lose that $900 smartphone. Whatever the problem, Yugo provides unmatched premium protection for any water sports adventure. Yugo. To get yours, visit YugoWear.com or simply scan the QR code on the screen. And remember, just add water.
Some call it joie de vivre, the joy of life. In Louisiana, it's our way of life. From music that shakes up your senses to food that wakes up your palate. That joy vibrates in every note we play and spices up every meal we serve. So come live life to the fullest. Come one, come y'all, come feed your soul in Louisiana. I'm Sean Ardway, inviting you to plan your trip at LouisianaTravel.com.
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
So, you want this, but you can't have it without this, or this, or this. Until now, introducing a new way to travel, intranationally. Get all that international charm without ever leaving the country. Right here in St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Get all that culture, all the cuisine from that culture. You're welcome. All the gram-worthy sites from that hashtag culture. Right here at home. St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Travel intranationally.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
When it comes to performance, comfort, and functionality, we've got you covered. Performance apparel designed by anglers to make your time on the water better than ever. Salt Life, the official apparel sponsor of the Sport Fishing Championship.
SFC coverage of the Texas International Fishing Tournament is sponsored by Invincible Boats, by Cypress Cove Marina, and by Salt Life.
Over 60 billfish caught in a day and a quarter so far the Sport Fishing Championship here in South Padre Island. Port Isabel also plays host just inside the bay there, Laguna Madre Bay. Beautiful scenery, sweet looking water. I've been there many times, South Padre Island. Peter Miller, this is where I used to take my vacations in college. This is where I would do my own, looking for the ladies along that beach. And little did I know the fishing was so good out there in the Gulf of Mexico. It's been pretty incredible, and we've seen several teams, local teams, showing what it's all about.
If you'd spent a little less time looking for the ladies, you would have caught some fish. You saw Bubba Gump going by right there. The shrimp fishery there is quite incredible, but the marlin fishing has proven to be off the charts. These guys are well into the 60s. Again, we only have about a third to a half of the catches reporting because a lot of guys are offshore and we don't have contact with them. But we have a couple leaders right now that have a lot of fish under their belts. One of the boats with 9 to 10 billfish, another one with 8 billfish. We have one boat with 3 blue marlin plus some sailfish. And that quantified boat, the team to watch, they have 2 first, they have a 7th, and now they're sitting right there at the top of the leaderboard with another couple boats. They're duking it out. They're going punch for punch, sailfish for marlin, and they're getting after it.
Let's go to the Garmin team spotter. Let's check out Rebecca one more time. Again, they're sitting right around 3rd place, and as Ronnie mentioned, they're the team without a blue marlin. Not too far behind, not having a blue, but having 4 whites, 5 sailfish. This is a look back at yesterday for Team Rebecca, and today started off well for them. They caught the first fish reported catch this morning. They've also had the last catch this morning.
That's right. Staying cool and calm, and look at that water. You know, again, Robbie, fishing in this calm water and catching billfish is like a dream. It's stuff that's, you know, dreams are made of, if you will. And you know, they got the video camera going. They film everything they need to film. Hands up in the air. They'll let go of the leader real quick.
My bad.
That is my boy Dudas. He's got to be him with the gray hair.
Again, we've got visual verification from Peter, but we're going to have to get Ronnie to go talk to him and see. And you say he's a stud from on the East Coast. Like he's a teacher of the best anglers.
He taught everybody down in Miami, and he was the man. And he taught his kids and their mates, and now they're winning tournaments all over the world. You get a little jump out of him there. That's the high hands. Nice white there.
At this point, with these hooks, the circle hooks, they're caught. They're caught. They don't usually come unbuttoned, generally.
Generally, they do not. They're usually in the corner of the mouth, and they're in there pretty good. And they usually take a little, you know, little look there. They kind of zero in on where the hook is before they're pulling too hard on it. And, you know, the fish is, but it's precious because it's 125 points. It beats that sailfish by a little bit. Not as much as the blue marlin, but boy, just keep catching these, and you'll be somewhere in the standing when it's all said and done.
So you're seeing the fish show itself at some distance. A lot of people think as we show you the back end of these fish are generally caught a ways out. And again, the spread they talk about, you've got lines that run straight back, you got lines out to the side at varying depths, various distances.
Well, a lot of times when you hook up with a first marlin or first sailfish or white marlin, you're going to want to keep the boat in gear, keep the other baits in play, because you may get a double or a triple. And when you can do that, it is really hard to catch up if you're the other teammates or the other teams out there. So this is what you want to do. It looks like they have another white marlin on.
We saw that yesterday with the multiple. El Patron had 3 fish on at the same time, 2 sailfish and a white marlin. That had to be a fun day, a busy day on board.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better than a triple, quadruple. I mean, that's really the way you want to do it, and that's how you win tournaments. You know, you can pick them all day and win. If you're consistent, that's great, but boy, those doubles, triples, quadruples, they will catapult you to the top of the leaderboard. Nice jump. You could always tell that telltale greyhound jump from the white marlin. Sailfish are a lot more wigglier. We'll call them the wiggles.
There's probably some lake guys here talking about how you can identify the way that the fish moves and the water. I know there's some lake guys going, if I feel that bait spin and I got a catfish on, I know it's not a bass. It's the same way for this offshore guys. They know what's on the end of the line. As we take a look at our catch alerts from day number 2, Sigsbee Deep, we've seen a lot of them. These knots are one of my favorite teams of the tournament. Must be Snoop Dogg fans. And we have a lot of quantified. Sigsbee Deep.
Got you
Rebecca.
Got you a little speechless with that boat name. I'll tell you.
It's my favorite.
When a boat name can get you speechless, Robbie,
you
that's something
see it
else.
a time or two, though. There's another quantified catch, another blue marlin, and every time you see, no matter what team it is, when you see blue marlin, you're making up ground or you're pulling away. That's 350 points.
That's right, and when you can compound that interest, you know, with a blue marlin, another blue marlin, that quantified, this is their backyard. This is what they do. This is what they've been practicing for. They've been at the top the entire time. We talked about them throwing away their 7th place finish, which is nothing to sneeze at, to be honest. A first, and a 7th. They might get a first place in this one as well.
And there's one of our teams in the Sport Fishing Championship, Rising Suns, released a blue marlin at 10:07. Again, Rising Suns, 4th in the championship, points total overall, 4th in the Gulf Division. But if you're going to catch quantified, good luck.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I actually remember fishing with one of their mates there on Quantified. His name is Tex, and I fished with him and against him back in the 90s, back in Miami. And now here he is on that 64 Spencer, crushing it out here in Texas. And his name was Tex, rightfully so.
Remind everyone, we will be back this afternoon, sportfishingchampionship.com at 6 o'clock Eastern. And make sure you tune in tomorrow on CBS Sports Network in the morning at 10 a.m. Just following our sportfishingchampionship.com little pre-show. But CBS Sports Network tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We're going to give you the lowdown, give you all the fish catches. On behalf of Ronnie Moore on site with Site One and Peter Miller, who's sitting next to me, I'm Robbie Floyd. I can't wait till this afternoon.